Well, good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? My name is Scott Rauch, and I'm the president and psychiatrist in chief of McLean Hospital. And I want to just begin by welcoming you all on behalf of McLean's Institute for Technology and Psychiatry to TIPS 2018, as we call it. Now, I debated about whether to do this or not, but I'm a lifelong Massachusetts resident, so I just got to do this. And so also welcome you to the great city of Boston, and now home of the 2018 World Series champion Boston Red Sox. Now, I wish we could claim that we used AI to accurately predict that they would win in 5 games, and that the timing of this meeting was just precisely positioned to dodge the duck boat tour. But that would be a lie. It's really just good fortune on our part. But I do hope that sort of the energy and excitement that we can generate over the next couple of days together will rival anything, any night in Fenway Park. In fact, we are truly at an inflection point in the field of psychiatry and mental health. There's a growing appreciation of the global prevalence and impact of psychiatric illnesses, where we now know that over 1/3 of people will have a psychiatric condition in their lifetime. It's really better understood than ever before and widely appreciated that disorders of brain and behavior represent the #1 cause of disability worldwide. And most recently, there's a growing appreciation in medicine that psychiatric illness is really the principal driver of total medical expense, not because of the fundamental cost of psychiatric care, but because of the ways in which failure to address psychiatric issues is a multiplier in the cost and an exacerbant of bad outcomes for all other medical and surgical conditions. As I think must be apparent, really, to all of us, through the media and from people in our own families and our own communities, we're in the midst of an opiate crisis across the United States. We're experiencing historically high suicide rates, especially in youths, and there are really a plethora of other behavioral and mental health challenges. So although there are many effective evidence-based treatments, there are really major gaps in what we know, in the treatments that we have available, and perhaps most importantly, in terms of access and healthcare equity. And that's really one of the principal themes of our TIPS 2018 this year. There's absolutely an ocean of need, and the answers will really lie in new discoveries and innovations. So in that context, it's a special privilege to convene this group at this time, when technology in this digital age is beginning to offer the promise of potential solutions to these paramount challenges. Let's just think together for a moment. Deep phenotyping, real-time, in situ data collection, more personalized, patient-centered care, new targets, better treatments, even cures, the ability to track, predict, and intervene in a timely way, and ideally to prevent. All these with convenience and cost efficiency, and importantly, widespread access for all. Those are our goals. Those are our opportunities. So in many respects, we are joined together as trailblazers, and I hope you share my excitement about all the possibilities that this new field brings. So as some of you who know me well have heard me reflect, perhaps too often, that's what happens when you get a little old, I'm very much reminded of the emergence of the field of psychiatric neuroimaging now, almost exactly a quarter century ago, and what it was like to be a pioneer on that landscape. it's clear that the field of digital psychiatry is absolutely on that same kind of hyperbolic upward trajectory today. It has all the hallmarks of a revolutionary scientific movement. And I'm just going to say a word about what the hallmarks are when you're in the midst, the early stage, the tipping point, in a way, of a revolutionary scientific movement. First and foremost, there's the realization that new tools and approaches have truly opened entirely new vistas to address large-scale, high-impact problems. And indeed, these are some of the most important and vexing challenges of our day. In turn, in our case, this has really captured the imagination of the best and brightest. From senior leaders to trainees, we see people coming in droves to this field across multiple disciplines to pioneer what heretofore is uncharted territory. Other hallmarks include the role of the national institutes. The national institutes are so important for providing leadership, both conceptually and materially. And I think about the fact that we have as one of our keynote speakers, Bruce Cuthbert, who in large measure has been one of the architects and champions of RDoC, a great example of the conceptual influence of NIH. But I think all of us know how crucial funding is. And in fact, in this domain, there's already been a surge in NIH funding reflecting an explicit strategic commitment of resources. Just as one example, we see sort of a proliferation of RFAs. So that's really, directed funding to a topic. One really good example of this is an RFA that came out and closed recently that attracted a cadre of U01s entitled the Intensive Longitudinal Behaviorals Network, utilizing digital technology approaches, just the sorts of things we're talking about, wearables, sensors, EMA. And the network was really explicitly charged to develop the tools and methods of this emerging field, as well as, and this is really important, defining a novel ontology and a whole new nomenclature. That's another aspect of charting new waters. So I actually had the privilege of being at NIH last week at the kickoff, bringing together the 7 awarded teams for this particular RFA. And it's just interesting to know that these focused on a range of targeted behaviors: suicide, psychosis, alcohol use, cigarette smoking, as well as other health behaviors like eating and exercise, with an eye towards prediction and intervention, ideally prevention. So it's also no mere coincidence that so many featured speakers from last year's TIPS were among the awarded teams. Matt Knox, Susan Murphy, J.P. Anella, L.P. Morency, Ian Barnett, as well as Justin Baker from our team. It really shows the way in which this is a field with natural leaders coming together, and that TIPS can play really a role in catalyzing that process. So there are other NIH RFAs that are pertinent, and I certainly won't enumerate them all, but I do just want to make the point that there's also a major investment specifically in global mobile health, such as embodied by NIH's Fogarty International Center. And this year at TIPS, we are so fortunate to have as another one of our keynote speakers, Michelle Williams, the Dean of the Chan School, who will also be focusing on the role of these sorts of approaches in global health. NIH is also investing in the creation of specific tools for widespread use, as exemplified by the NIH Toolbox 2.0 grant and associated contracts, featuring our own Laura Germain from Test My Brain. In a scientific revolution, there's also a need to attend to the regulatory landscape. And so I think it's actually very telling that the FDA just launched its pre-cert program as part of its so-called Digital Health Innovation Action Plan to help inform the development of a new regulatory model to assess software technologies in the context of digital health. It may not surprise people here that many think that the ultimate harbinger of such a revolution is industry. And in fact, in this domain, I don't think I have to tell the people here in the audience that industry is going all in. From startups to major established players to even traditional big pharma, they all see this domain as the future, and they're putting their money where their mouths are, so to speak. I think it's worth noting some of the highlights there, even of just the last year. Pear Therapeutics achieved the first ever FDA-approved app for the treatment of substance use disorders. Apple introduced a novel mode for electronic health record access via the iPhone. Otsuka launched Abilify MySite, a pill incorporating a sensor to actually track ingestion. And if you go online, you can find in the news Fitbit, J&J, Rauch, Samsung, Verily. They're all there. They're all investing in this domain, believing that it's a critical part of the future. And finally, we can also look to the leading organs and journals of our fields, also as an index and an indicator of not just through the sheer number of publications, and certainly we showed a slide like that last year, but in addition to that, really looking at the number of thought pieces and reports on innovation and so on. And so I think I would just direct you to Nature as one leading journal just 2 days ago had a really neat piece on MindStrong, led by Tom Insel, the former director of NIMH, who was one of our featured speakers here last year. And mentioning that also gives me an opportunity just to say that that's an article that's quite balanced. The enthusiasm is also tempered by enumerating some of the pitfalls, and I think that also will be a critical theme and feature of these next 2 days, that we all want to be swept up by the enthusiasm of what is possible, is to also exercise some thoughtful caution about some of the limitations of what we can achieve. So our TIPS is virtually unique in bringing together clinicians and scientists with expertise across a broad range of domains essential to digital psychiatry, and also bridging cultures, academia, policy, and industry. So again, I really mostly just want to welcome you on behalf of McLean Hospital and our Institute for Technology and Psychiatry. We are deeply invested in collaborating to revolutionize the field in order to advance our mission of improving the lives of people and families affected by psychiatric illness. Now, before I move on, I do just want to say a couple of words of acknowledgement. First, for our new board chair, Carol Vallone, who's an entrepreneur and recognized leader in online education and health. Many of you may remember Carol from her appearance in last year's summit. We are very fortunate to have her at the helm of our institution at McLean, and also to have her with us this year in the audience as well. I want to specifically express our gratitude to all of our sponsors and to the entire team who organized the program. And so if we could have a big round of applause for the sponsors and for our organizers. And likewise, to our speakers, our poster presenters, and really to all of you who'll be engaged participants for making this meeting possible. So, you know, speaking for myself, I really just could not be more excited both about this meeting and the field. And so I know that I look forward to watching it all unfold. So thank you. Enjoy the summit. And with that, it's really my pleasure to introduce Dr. Justin Baker as chair of this year's program. Justin is the scientific director of McLean's Institute for Technology and Psychiatry and assistant professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. You can certainly access his bio both in your program, and in this day and age, people have probably gone online to find out all sorts of things above and beyond. But suffice it to say that Justin is a genuine next generation leader in this field with a background in psychiatry and neuroscience, incorporating imaging together with digital and other technologies in innovative and visionary ways. So really have a great time, and join me in welcoming to the podium Justin Baker. Justin?